Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for being here. Mr. Chief, if I could just start with you. I just want to clarify something that you said to Senator Baldwin a moment or two ago. She asked you about OCR investigations into alleged cases of discrimination on the basis of gender identity under Title IX. And you said, I think, I'm looking at our quick transcript of your remarks. I was sitting here. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. You said that the OCR, Department of Ed OCR, would investigate alleged cases of gender identity discrimination. Why is that?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for the question.
Welcome back to Civic Lens, where we cut through the noise and actually look at what's happening in American politics. You just watched a snippet of Senator Josh Hawley pressing a Department of Education nominee on something that, frankly, goes to the heart of fairness, law, and honesty in government, how Title IX is being interpreted and misinterpreted in the name of gender identity. And I'll be very clear from the start. What Josh Hawley did here wasn't grandstanding. It wasn't culture war theatrics. It was oversight, real oversight. He asked a direct question, demanded clarity, and refused to accept vague bureaucratic language when the stakes are women's sports, women's safety, and the integrity of a landmark civil rights law. This exchange matters because Title IX is not abstract. It's not theoretical. It affects real women, real students, and real opportunities right now on campuses across the country. So if you care about fairness, constitutional limits, and whether government agencies follow the law instead of rewriting it, you're going to want to watch this all the way through. Before we break it down, hit like, subscribe to Civic Lens, and share this video. Because these conversations aren't being covered honestly enough, and that silence has consequences. Let's get into it.
Thank you.
Now that we've
Senator
watched
Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for being here. Mr. Chief, if I could just start with you. I just want to clarify something that you said to Senator Baldwin a moment or two ago. She asked you about OCR investigations into alleged cases of discrimination on the basis of gender identity under Title IX. And you said, I think, I'm looking at our quick transcript of your remarks. I was sitting here. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. You said that the OCR, Department of Ed OCR, would investigate alleged cases of gender identity discrimination. Why is that?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Senator, and for the opportunity to have a detailed discussion about it. So in 2017, OCR clarified that transgender students, that students who bring allegations forth based on sexual orientation and gender identity were protected from harassment under Title IX. Sex stereotyping, a very narrow set of cases applied to protect students on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. That was back in 2017. Following the Bostock case, OCR had to step back and determine how Bostock applied to Title IX cases. There are a lot of reasons it didn't apply, and I can walk through those because they're significant. But what OCR finally determined is that because of the holding in Bostock, that Bostock could inform OCR's evaluation of complaints that allege discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation identity to determine if they involve biological sex, which is consistent with the Bostock opinion. So what we held is that Bostock could inform a limited sect of OCR cases pertaining to different treatment, pertaining to harassment, pertaining to bullying, but we drew a hard line at universally accepting Bostock to apply to all Title IX cases. What we said is that because the Supreme Court said that biological sex was not relevant in the termination of those employees in Bostock, that we would also look at the relevance of sex in our cases. And what we determined is that sex is relevant in certain instances. Sex is relevant with regard to restrooms. Sex is relevant with regard to locker rooms. And sex is relevant with regard to athletic teams. So it was a very nuanced approach.
But sex is not gender identity. And the Bostock decision is Title VII. The Supreme Court specifically reserved the question of whether or not it applied to Title IX. Justice Gorsuch is very clear on this. Now, the Biden administration didn't heed that warning at all, as you know.
Yes, sir.
They subsequently issued guidance that attempted to rewrite Title IX completely.
Yes.
That guidance has been enjoined
Yes.
nationally by courts because it is utterly inconsistent with the text of Title IX. Indeed, as you know, it completely upends it. It reads Title IX to say that women's sports cease to exist, that a biological man, if he wants to be in a woman's sport, go for it. In a woman's locker room, fine. It's so outrageous that I think almost every court that has considered it has enjoined it.
I agree.
So, okay, I just want to be sure that you're not going to follow the Biden administration's interpretation of Title IX, surely.
No, sir. The Biden administration universally accepted Bostock and arguably exceeded, right? Went even further, I think.
Not arguably.
Than the Bostock opinion. That is not what we did under President Trump's first term, and that is not what we will do under President Trump's second term.
Good. Okay. I want to be crystal clear on this. That I think it's a very dangerous thing to start allowing this into Title IX, which is, it is a landmark statute. It is vitally important, and it has been under attack for 4 very long years, where we have seen women's sports, women's leadership opportunities, women's safety eliminated in many cases. And now, of course, one of the challenges you're going to face is you've got a host of colleges and universities who are openly defying, not just this administration, they're defying court orders. I hear a lot of talk from my friends over here on this side of the dais about the need to follow court orders. We've got a whole bunch of colleges and administrations that are defying court orders and saying, well, we don't care. We're going to have biological men in women's sports no matter what. We're going to have biological men in women's locker rooms no matter what. Surely you're going to go after that, are you not, and protect the women on campus?
Yes, sir. The current leadership within OCR and Secretary McMahon, as you know, is prioritizing these cases, and that will not stop under my leadership if I'm fortunate enough to assume this role.
Good. And I want to be on the record to back to your regulations both in 2017 and 2020. I think you might want to rethink those. I mean, in light of subsequent jurisprudence and in light, frankly, of subsequent experience, I think you want to take a really hard look at how you're interpreting gender identity and the interface. We've had there's some water under the bridge now, and the interface with biological sex and just how that's being used to undermine the rights of it's never the rights of men, it's always the rights of women, 100% of the time. And I think we've got to be very careful about that.
Thank you.
My time has expired, and the chairman, I'm such a good citizen, I never go over. So I'll just submit some questions for the record for you, Dr. Schwinn, and others. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley.
Get into
Senator
it.
King.
Now that we watched the full exchange, here's why Senator Hawley's questioning was not only justified, but necessary. First, notice what Hawley does right away. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't caricature. He asks the nominee to clarify their own words about OCR investigating gender identity discrimination under Title IX. That matters because Title IX is explicit. It is a sex-based statute, not a gender identity statute. And the difference is not semantic, it's legal. The nominee admits something extremely important here. The Supreme Court's Bostock decision was a Title VII employment case, not a Title IX education case. Justice Gorsuch himself explicitly said the court was not deciding how, or whether, that logic applies to Title IX. That alone should have ended the debate. Instead, what we've seen over the last several years, particularly under the Biden administration, is federal agencies acting as if Bostock gave them a blank check to rewrite education law from the ground up. Josh Hawley called that out, and is right to. What the nominee confirms, almost reluctantly, is that OCR previously took a narrow, cautious approach. Biological sex was still considered relevant for things like locker rooms, restrooms, and athletic teams. Why? Because reality still exists. Biology still exists. And the law still recognizes sex-based distinctions in specific contexts. That's not discrimination. That's the entire point of Title IX. Hawley then goes where many politicians refuse to go, women's sports. And again, this isn't ideology, it's math. It's fairness. It's safety. When you erase sex-based protections, you don't create equality, you replace women's rights with male entitlement. And as Hawley correctly points out, it is never men's rights being sacrificed in this framework. It is women's every single time. What's even more alarming, and Hawley deserves credit for emphasizing this, is the open defiance by some universities. We're not talking about policy disagreements anymore. We're talking about institutions ignoring court orders and daring the federal government to stop them. And Hawley asks a question that actually matters. Is anyone going to enforce the law? The nominee's answer that OCR leadership would prioritize these cases is a bare minimum. But the fact that the question even has to be asked tells you how far we've drifted from basic accountability. This exchange exposes a deeper issue: unelected bureaucracies treating statutes as living documents that can be reshaped by ideology instead of Congress. That's not how constitutional governance works. And Hawley, whatever you think of him politically, understands that separation of powers still matters. What I appreciate most here is that Hawley isn't asking for new laws. He's not demanding radical changes. He's asking the Department of Education to follow the law as written, respect court rulings, and stop pretending ambiguity where there is none. That's not extreme. That's conservative in the truest sense of the word. And this is why moments like this matter. Not because they trend on social media, but because they show what real legislative oversight looks like when someone is willing to ask uncomfortable questions and stay on them. Whether you agree with Josh Hawley on everything or not, this was a serious moment, handled seriously, about an issue that affects millions of students. And if more lawmakers did this, on both sides, we'd have a government that looks a lot less like activism and a lot more like accountability. That's the America's Civic Lens take. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you're subscribed, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who cares about where Title IX is headed. We'll keep watching, we'll keep questioning, and we'll keep calling it like it is.